When my daughters tried to have me declared incompetent right during a family dinner, I smiled, stood before the judge the next morning, and handed him the only asset I'd kept in my name, a flash drive containing their voices, their signatures, their plan, all recorded confessions. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. I am 70 years old and a grandfather twice over. I say that first because it is the only part of my life that has not wavered. June is 11, and Ben is 7. June likes constellations and reads with her lips moving. Ben can whistle without moving his face. When they are in my house, the floorboards sound like they did when my Margaret was alive, weighted with life. When they are gone, I know the exact place each board will creak before it does. The rest of it, money, property, papers with seals and signatures, turned out to be a set of veils over something I had not wanted to see. The two girls I raised could look at me and see a wallet with a slow pulse. It began 2 months after the anniversary of Margaret's passing, on a rainy Thursday that made the gutters on Pine Street gnash. I was on the back porch with a mug of tea and an old ledger, the one with the penciled notes of the first commercial building I ever bought. I started as a junior accountant who never forgot where the cents went. Over 4 decades, that carefulness turned into 5 small storefronts on our town square, a duplex near the community college, and a big old Victorian with a wraparound porch that Margaret painted herself in a shade she called Cloud Before Rain. I never listed it for sale. I could not. That evening, my oldest daughter, Brooke, called. Her voice was like a dress 1 size too tight. "Dad, we need to have a serious conversation about your safety." "Come by," I said. "Have tea." "I will be there tomorrow," she said. Around noon. With Lila. My daughters arriving at the same time was a rarity. Brooke lives 20 minutes west in new construction with stainless steel everything. Lila rents a craftsman near the river and changes careers whenever a new kind of planner catches her eye. They do not move in harmony, unless the music playing is money. The next day, they came in with paper bags and bright voices. "Grocery run," Lila said, kissing my temple. She smelled like something floral and expensive. "You are always forgetting the little things." "Not always," I said, smiling. "Dad," Brooke said, her tone shifting to a practiced concern. "We need to talk about the stove. The neighbors saw smoke last week. And June told me you left the garden hose running again." "She told you I left it running because we flooded the ladybug village next to the rosemary," I said. "We were very apologetic to the ladybugs." "Jokes aside," Brooke said, flipping open a binder she had brought. "Tabs. I had taught her to love tabs. You need help. A cleaner twice a week. A nurse to check your medications. If we cannot agree, we will have to consider other options." "What other options?" I asked. "Guardianship," she said. The word sat between us like a fat toad. Lila's eyes flicked to me and away. "You think I am incompetent," I said gently. "We think," Brooke said, carefully selecting each word like it came with glass edges, "that you might soon be. We want to prepare. So nothing terrible happens. So nothing is lost." The paperwork on the table looked crisp. I did not touch it. "Give me 2 weeks," I said. "Come to Sunday dinner. Bring the kids. Let us start there." Brooke stared at me for a moment, trying to guess the shape of my next move. Then she nodded. 2 weeks. After they left, I made tea I did not drink and called a woman who had never asked me for a cent. Her name is Priya Natrajan. She and her husband bought one of my storefronts 10 years ago for their law practice. I rented it to them for half market rate because I liked the way she held a pen, straight and purposeful. She showed up half an hour later in a raincoat with her hair in a knot. "Tell me everything," she said. And I did. When I finished, she sat very still for several breaths. "We will not wait for them to file," she said finally. "We will build the sort of structure that cannot be pushed over with loud voices. You will need to be brave, patient, and precise." "I can be all three," I said. "Particularly precise." We made a list. Pocket trust. Charitable remainder trust. Transfer deeds. Updated healthcare proxies. Letters of instruction. We assembled a quiet army. A forensic document examiner whom Priya had used in a probate case where signatures had suddenly learned to dance a new way. A private investigator who looked like a kindly baker and had a camera small enough to hide in the knot of a pine board. A geriatrician who still did house calls and valued truth more than referrals from anxious adult children. A notary I had known 25 years who had once told me, "Tom, if ink had a conscience, it would be yours." "I do not want to ruin my daughters," I said. "I want to stop them." "Sometimes stopping people requires them to feel the wall," Priya said. "Not the curtain." The next morning, I found the first breadcrumb. My pill organizer had 2 empty Tuesday slots. I had not missed a dose. I keep track of these things the way other men keep baseball statistics. I did not rage. I did not call. I bought a second organizer, filled it, and set it on the shelf next to the one they knew about. On a hunch, I switched the blue plastic for clear and set a small camera in the glass-fronted cabinet above, behind a mason jar of dried rosemary. On Thursday, my granddaughter June came by with a paper bag of lemons stamped with the name of a grocery we do not use. She put her book on the table, a heavy atlas of the night sky. "Grandpa," she said quietly as she rinsed the lemons. "Mom and Aunt Lila talked in the car with me in it yesterday." I waited. June is careful with her words. She does not dump them the way children do when they are sharing gossip. She arranges them with serious eyes. "They said the word guardianship," she continued. "And the word assets. And Aunt Lila told Mom that Evan's business is a month behind on rent and that if you were under something, that it would be easier to get a line of credit on the square because the bank would feel better. Evan is Brooke's husband. He sells software that predicts who will click on what. His teeth are very white. He calls it a startup even though it is 5 years old. He has never liked that I do not invest by feeling." "Did they say anything else?" I asked. "They said the word X part like it was a secret spell," she said. "And Aunt Lila said, he is too proud to see what help looks like. Then Mom said, he is too proud to see what we need." June looked up at me, and for a second I saw my Margaret in her, the way she would pause before breaking a piece of news that would bend the rest of the week. "Are you proud in the wrong way?" she asked softly. "I am proud of you," I said. "Does that count?" She smiled then, small and honest. "Can we make lemonade?" We made lemonade that afternoon with rosemary and a pinch of salt. I taught her how to slice thin enough for the light to come through the lemons. We pretended it was only a cooking lesson. Later, when she left, I watched the footage from the cabinet camera, Brooke, 3 days before, opening the organizer and tipping 2 white tablets into her palm, replacing them with smaller, chalkier white tablets. The view was perfect. The little camera recorded the curve of her rings and the front of the pill labels clearly enough that Priya could list the compounds they had tried to introduce into my morning. We made more lists. I deeded the storefronts to a charitable remainder trust named for Margaret, with the income to me during my life, and the remainder to a scholarship fund for caregivers at the community college. The scholarship committee would include a rotating seat for a minor child of my line, filled by a guardian until their 18th birthday. June would be the first, with an advocate to speak her votes into the record until she could vote for herself. The Victorian I lived in, cloud before rain, went into an irrevocable trust whose trigger clause read like poetry to me: in the event of petition for guardianship, hypothecation, or any involuntary transfer effort initiated by children or their spouses, title springs to the trust immediately and permanently. That clause felt like a steel beam bolted into bedrock. Priya filed everything quiet as snowfall. We said nothing to the girls. We invited them to Sunday dinner, and I roasted a chicken and set out my mother's silver as if nothing at all was happening. "Dad, this looks wonderful," Lila said, cheeks flushed from the cold. Brooke walked through the rooms like a buyer at an open house, eyes flicking from corner to corner as if appraising both dust and value. Halfway through dessert, the doorbell rang. Brooke stood. "That will be Dr. Larkin," she said. I asked him to stop by. Just a quick wellness check. For our peace of mind. Dr. Larkin had a handsome smile and a monogrammed bag. He smelled like barber's talc. He used the word friend liberally. He looked at my pupils with a light and my hands with interest. He did not ask about the lemon rosemary lemonade, which sat shiny in a glass on the table next to a mug of tea. "New tea?" he asked finally, glancing at the cup with the casual glance of a man doing a small cheating thing. He took the cup, lifted it as if weighing it, and set it down again. I did not touch it. "We picked up a blend," Brooke said. "To help Dad sleep. You know how he gets." "It does have that look," he said. He patted my arm with doctorly warmth and slid paperwork from his bag. "Just some preliminary forms, Tom. To save us time later. Nothing binding." "Of course," I said, and reached for the fountain pen in my shirt pocket. The pen was my Margaret's gift to me on our 30th anniversary. Blue lacquer. Heavy in the hand. I had refilled it that afternoon. Ink the color of good midnight. My signature with this pen looks like itself in any dream. I touched the nib to the page and then paused. "Dr. Larkin," I said, sounding for a second like a boy caught slipping a cookie. "My right hand has been stiff. Could you humor me if I sign with my left? I have been practicing for fun." He laughed. "We are not making this legal, Tom. Sign with your foot if you want." I signed with my left. The letters wandered a little. They looked like me walking on gravel. Then I set down the pen and lifted the cup of tea as if to drink. Brooke watched me as a cat watches a mouse that is too far from its hole. I put the cup down again. "Too hot," I said. The next morning, before any of us had emptied our coffee mugs, the petition landed with the court like a thrown stone. Emergency guardianship, with a supporting affidavit from Dr. Larkin. Ex parte. We were on the docket at 10. "Tell me you are ready," Priya said at 8. She was already in a suit the color of a storm. "More than ready," I said. I had a flash drive in my breast pocket. In my left pocket, a handkerchief Margaret had embroidered with my initials. The courthouse smelled like paper and old coffee. In the elevator, I could see my girls in the faint mirror of the brushed steel. They were in the hallway outside the probate courtroom with Evan and Lila's friend Sasha, who hugs me with her arms but not her eyes. "Dad," Brooke said, surprised. "You should not be wandering around unsupervised this morning." That may be for the judge to decide, I said. Inside, a low buzz. The judge on our case, Honorable Teresa Greer, has a face like a careful ant and eyes like the underside of a hawk. I have seen them in the local paper, lined with the weariness of someone who has told 100 families that love and control are not synonyms. She looked at us all in that first sweep that allows a person to know who is brittle and who might break. "Good morning," she said. "We are here on an emergency petition for temporary guardianship. Petitioners Brooke Harrigan Ellis and Lila Harrigan. Alleged incapacitated person, Thomas Harrigan." "Present," I said. "Counsel," she asked the girls. A young man with a perfect tie knot stood. "Ian Morris for the petitioners." "Counsel for Mr. Harrigan," she asked. Priya stood. "Priya Natarajan. Mr. Harrigan contests the petition." "Proceed," the judge said. The petitioners went first. Ian recited phrases like a catechism of concern. Smoke. Missed pills. Confusion. Unsafe home. Risk. He spoke smoothly, placing words like bricks. Then Brooke took the stand. She wiped at her eyes when she was sworn in. She did not cry. She does not cry without being paid for it, I thought, then chided myself for being cruel. "Tell me your concerns," Ian said. "My father has been declining," she said. "He is proud, so he does not admit it. He left the stove on. He cannot keep track of his medication. He gave my daughter lemonade with salt in it." She let the room murmur at that. "He has been falling for scams. He signed a paper yesterday for a doctor without reading it." "Did he appear to understand?" Ian asked. "No," she said. "He was confused. The doctor was worried. We are worried." She looked at me then with what she thought compassion looked like. "We just want what is best." "Your witness," the judge said. Priya's voice when she is in this mode is silver and precise. "Ms. Harrigan Ellis, did you replace any of your father's prescribed medication with other substances?" Brooke blinked. "What? Absolutely not." Priya's eyebrow twitched. "If I showed you video of you doing so, would it refresh your recollection?" Silence. Ian stood. "Objection, Your Honor, Foundation." "Overruled," Judge Greer said. "Ms. Natarajan, lay your foundation." Priya held up a small sealed evidence bag. "Your Honor, we have video taken from Mr. Harrigan's kitchen. The camera is positioned inside a cabinet facing a clear pill organizer. The video shows Ms. Harrigan Ellis on October 17 removing 2 of Mr. Harrigan's prescribed extended-release tablets and substituting them with antihistamines from a bottle in her purse. The time-stamped footage matches the day Mr. Harrigan reported feeling unusually drowsy in the afternoon." Ian sputtered something legal. The judge motioned for us to approach. We did. Priya spoke calmly, referencing chain of custody, the notary who had time-stamped the SD card, the forensic review confirming no edits. When we returned to our places, Judge Greer leaned back and made a small note. "May I play the footage for the court?" Priya asked. "You may," the judge said. The screen came down, the lights dimmed. On the projection, my kitchen looked as it always did, maple with a soft shine, the old clock, the rosemary jar. Brooke's hands came into frame like 2 pale animals. The room held its breath. When the swap happened, it was neat and quick. She learned quickness from me. The judge signaled for the lights. "Continue," she said softly. Priya's questions sliced cleanly. Did you bring herbal tea to your father's home on Sunday? Yes, Brooke said, mouth small. Did you ask a physician you know socially to perform an unscheduled assessment at your father's dinner table? Yes. Did you discuss an emergency ex parte petition with your sister before this visit? Brooke glanced at Lila and swallowed. We discussed options. A few more questions and then it was Lila's turn. Lila told the truth the way a child tells it, apologizing for the edges, hoping it will sound kinder if cushioned with the right adjectives. By the time she stepped down, the story had a shape any person in the room could see. Call Dr. Larkin, Priya said. He took the stand lightly. He had not expected to have to defend himself. He said the right words: wellness check, concern, preliminary forms. Priya handed him a document from his affidavit and said, "Doctor, would you read that sentence?" He read. Mr. Harrigan displayed confusion regarding the date and time and required prompting to answer simple orientation questions. Were those questions asked before or after he had taken a sip of tea you knew contained an over-the-counter sleep aid? Priya asked. He smiled thinly. I did not know that. Then why, in a text at 4:11 p.m. Sunday to Ms. Harrigan Ellis, did you write, give him the sleepy tea now so I can get a baseline with a little stress? Silence. The bailiff coughed. Anyone who has told a lie in public knows that particular kind of silence. Larkin's eyes flicked to Ian. He recovered. Poorly. It was a joke, he said. Is the falsification of a medical condition a joke? Priya asked. Ian objected. The judge sustained, but not in a way that helped him. Priya withdrew the question without fuss and handed the judge a thumb drive. Your Honor, defense offers Exhibit J, audio recorded in Mr. Harrigan's dining room during the wellness check. The device recorded a conversation in which Dr. Larkin asked Ms. Harrigan Ellis, quote, "Do you have the signature sheets?" and Ms. Harrigan Ellis replied, "Yes, if he refuses, we can just say he signed them anyway, he will not remember," end quote. Judge Greer rubbed her temples briefly, the way one does when a headache wears heels. When it was my turn, I stood, was sworn in, and remembered to breathe with my stomach. Mr. Harrigan, Priya said softly, do you know what day it is? Tuesday, I said. October 24th. What do you understand about this proceeding? My daughters want control of my person and my estate, I said. They believe that is in their best interest. They have told themselves it is in mine. What do you want? To continue living in my home with dignity and ordinary support, I said. To see my grandchildren without the conversations that happen over them. To keep the promises I made to my wife. To sleep without tea that makes my head heavy. To sign my name only where I mean it. She nodded. Did you sign any legal documents on Sunday? I signed a paper with my left hand for Dr. Larkin, I said. I had already signed the real papers with my right. What were the real papers? Priya asked. Deeds, I said. Trust agreements. Priya walked me through them slowly for the court, so each term had a human shape. The charitable remainder trust. The irrevocable house trust with its trigger clause that had already sprung at the moment they filed. The letters of instruction for my accounts. The healthcare proxy appointing Priya's paralegal as my lay advocate for medical paperwork, so that no doctor who takes cash from my daughter's friends can sign a line that lists me as something they can shove. Ian did his best in cross. He suggested that Priya had unduly influenced me. Mr. Harrigan, he said smoothly, how long have you known Ms. Natarajan? 10 years, I said. She paid me rent for 9 of those. And in that time, he continued, has she ever told you how to arrange your estate? Only when I asked, I said. I have been arranging estates for other people for 40 years. I am merely doing my own now. He tried to trip me on dates. I have lived with dates since I was 19 and keeping track of milk money for the corner market. They did not tangle. When it ended, the judge took a long beat. Then she spoke, each word placed carefully in the air. This court denies the emergency petition for temporary guardianship, she said. The petitioners have not met their burden. In fact, the evidence suggests attempts to induce symptoms and to obtain signatures under questionable circumstances. She turned her eyes to Brooke and Lila. Ladies, hear me clearly. Guardianship is not a shortcut to convenience or to equity. It is an extreme remedy. Your father is not an asset class. He is a person. She looked down at her notes. Because of the evidence presented, the court is referring the matter to the district attorney for review under the elder abuse statute. Additionally, Dr. Larkin, you will be referred to the medical board. His smile finally fell off his face. Brooke's mouth opened and closed. Lila put her head in her hands. Evan stared at me as if I had yanked a rug. He forgets I built the floor. After the hearing, Priya and I walked into the sunlight. It was sharp and clean. People held the door for us. People pretend they do not listen in court hallways, but they are poor pretenders. I could feel the neon glow of their attention in the way they glanced and looked away. Do you want to press? Priya asked quietly. She meant charges. I want them to feel the wall, I said. Not the gallows. Then we will negotiate, she said. But I will be the one to speak in rooms you are not in. We did not have to wait long for the first private meeting. Evan called me that afternoon, his voice suddenly soft with a respect that was not for me, but for a problem he could not code his way around. Tom, he said. Can we talk? You may come by, I said. No phones. He arrived with a face scrubbed of confidence. In my front room, I keep a framed blueprint of the square as it was in 1968. The building his company rents used to be a shoe store with a bench for children. He looked at the blueprint as if hoping a door might open in it. I did not know what Brooke and Lila were planning, he said. You knew enough to expect a change in control, I said. I heard the word line of credit in my granddaughter's report and it tasted like your mouth. He colored. We have payroll. I know, I said. You missed last quarter's rent. You owe late fees. You are not a villain in my head, Evan. You are just a child who let his fear start driving the car. He blinked. What do you want? I handed him a letter. It was printed on thick paper. He read it and his shoulders sagged. It was a notice to vacate, signed by the trustee of the Charitable Remainder Trust. The rent had not been paid. The grace period had been extended once, twice, and then withdrawn. If he wanted to remain, he could apply under the trust's revised tenant criteria, which included proof of reserves and a board seat for an independent financial controller. He would not qualify. He knew it. You are evicting us, he said dully. I am not, I said. The trust is. But there is a second letter. Read that one. He did. His eyes widened. It was an offer, one I had asked Priya to draft with a steady hand. I would buy his debt from his lender at a discount, assume the note, and then restructure his repayment plan if he stepped down as chief executive officer and accepted a salary position under a new executive with the sense to keep books that tell the truth. He looked up at me. Why would you do that? Because jobs are people, I said. And because you are married to my daughter and your choices spill on my grandchildren's shoes. You will accept or you will not. Either way, the door opens or closes on Friday at 5. He did not answer. He left with both letters. On Wednesday evening, Brooke came by without calling. She was wearing clothes that looked like they had been put on in a hurry. She stood in my kitchen for a long moment before she spoke. I do not know how to apologize to you, she said finally. You do know, I said. You do not want to. She swallowed. I have excuses. I am not the person to tell them to, I said. You can tell them to a judge or to your daughter. I will accept only an apology that promises not to do it again. I cannot go to jail, she whispered. Then you will do what Priya asks, I said. Full apologies in writing to me and to June. Restitution in the form of your time to the Caretaker's Scholarship Fund. 40 hours a month for 2 years. You will not hold her hand at a ribbon cutting and go home. You will do the work that smells like bleach, not perfume. And you will agree that for 1 year, you will not enter my home unless invited by June. Her eyes found mine sharply. June. She warned me, I said. She is the only one in this house who did not treat me like a problem to solve or a prize to claim. She is my gatekeeper for a while. Her yes means more to me than your 1,000 words. Brooke closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were not softer, but they were cleaner. I will do it, she said. Tell your sister the same door is open, I said. But tell her it closes if she tries any other doors with latches labeled easy. I have lived long enough to know that the part after the explosion is mostly sweeping glass and making lists. The district attorney accepted the diversion program Priya proposed. No charges filed if both daughters completed the service, paid a fine to the Elder Abuse Fund, and attended a 6-week series on capacity and consent. Dr. Larkin resigned from the hospital before the board could vote. He will not be welcome back. Evan took the deal on Thursday at 4:26, jaw clenched like a boy swallowing bad medicine. Under a new chief executive officer, the company cut its spending and met its next payroll with cash, not hope. People will want to know about the Victorian. I do not live there anymore. When the trigger clause activated, the trust sent me a letter that managed to make me both proud and a little sad. Title moved. The house would be renovated and turned into Margaret's Porch, a day respite center for caretakers who need 2 hours to handle the small errands that become mountains when you are carrying another person on your back. I moved into the little cottage at the lake. It is not quite a cabin, too much insulation and wiring for that, but it has a porch that faces the water, and when it rains, it drums on the roof exactly the way you think rain should. On the first day Margaret's Porch opened, a nurse's aide left her mother with dementia in the parlor and walked down the block to buy herself a winter coat. When she came back, she cried. Not because the coat fit, but because she had not done anything alone in a year. Brooke stood at the back of the room watching this with a box of tissues in her arms. She did not cry. She reached for the woman's hand and helped her into a chair. Later, when I was putting away coffee cups, Brooke approached me. I am learning the names of the people I thought were background before, she said. They are not background. No, I said. They never were. What do you want from me after this year is over, she asked. To watch, I said. Not you. Your actions. June is watching too. June came by on Friday like she always does. We made lemonade even though summer had already turned the leaves at their edges. She told me that in science class they were naming the moons around Jupiter, learning the old myths, and that when she draws, she knows which stars she is copying by muscle memory. She asked if we could go to Margaret's porch the next day to deliver a basket of muffins. I told her yes. She nodded as if that were a test and I had passed. On Sunday, I drove to the square and parked behind my old building. The shoe store bench is still there, sanded and stained and set under a wall of photographs of the square through the years. I touched the wood the way you touch the shoulder of an old friend, briefly, with gratitude and without clinging. Lila met me outside with a pot of rosemary. She looked thinner, not from fashion, from effort. Her service hours were going into a pilot program teaching family members how to build ramps and fix loose rails. I did not know I could use a level, she said. The bubble goes between the lines like a little boat. It is satisfying. Most true things are, I said. She set the rosemary on the table and took a breath. I wrote June a letter. I told her I was sorry. I told her exactly what I did, and I asked her to tell me what to do to make it right to her. What did she say? I asked. She said to stop using the word right like it is a door you can unlock and walk through, Lila said. She said to think of it like a set of stairs you go up and never stop. June has my Margaret's soul. I can see it now without it hurting me. People like revenge to end with an orchestra. It makes good stories sing. But my ending was quieter and, in its way, louder. The dais at the scholarship ceremony had a cheap plastic microphone that squealed when the dean tapped it with 2 fingers. The first recipients' names were read: a mother of 3 who works nights, a grandfather who went back to school after his wife died, a 19-year-old who had been changing her grandmother's dressing since she was 14. As they crossed the stage, a light came on inside me like the one that used to spark when Margaret would tilt a lamp just right. It was warm and steady and not dazzled by itself. After the ceremony, I walked outside and found a bench under the maples. The clouds were doing exactly what my wife liked them to do, gathering up rain in the folds of gray. Brooke and Lila found me there. They sat without asking. The wind had a bite in it and felt sincere. We brought something, Brooke said. She held out a small velvet bag. Inside was my fountain pen. Blue lacquer. Heavy. I took it on Sunday because I wanted your signature, she said. I am giving it back because I do not ever want to want anything like that again. I turned it over in my hands. It felt the way a promise feels, the old kind, not the kind people make now when they want a headline. You will sign things again, I said. Some will be yours. Some will be to help. Use it for those. Dad, Lila said, eyes red in a way that made me think more of wind than of tears. Can we come to the lake house next weekend with the kids? We will bring everything. Food. Firewood. We just want to be. Ask June, I said. She is the gatekeeper. They both nodded and smiled without irritation. This was new. Their smiles had always had a border before, like they were stamped on. These were not. They looked like the smiles of girls I once knew. That night, at the lake, I fell asleep with the window cracked and woke at 4 because I heard something I have not heard since Margaret died. It was not a sound. It was the absence of a particular ache. I got up, made tea that no one had tampered with, and sat on the porch. The first bird began before the light, then another, then 3.
Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed listening to the story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, Please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support the creation of more stories like this. Have a great day or evening.